So, good morning, friends. I welcome you back in this class of video lecture, and we have been taking a very famous spiritual poem, The Good Morrow, written by Donne. This is MA Previous English Literature, Paper 1. So, friends, yesterday we had a sort of brief introduction of the poem, The Good Morrow. So here the good morrow has been referred to the general salutation, the good morning, which we often do at the time of waking up, or when do we get up, or when do we meet someone for the first time. So this good morning here has been a sort of uh, sense of spiritual awakening of the soul, and spiritual awakening of the mind. So in the very first stanza, the lover expresses his wonder as to what he and his beloved did before they fell in love with each other. You see, the first two lines are very important over here. I quote, I wonder by my troth what thou and I did till we loaded, till we met. What did we do? It has been a matter of concern for the lover, that it has been a matter of, it has been a matter of despair and disappointment for the lover, that what he and his beloved did before they fell in love with each other. It is the lover is surprised to learn that he wasted his time, he wasted his, you know energy, because until he met the beloved, it was a sheer wastage of time, it was a sheer wastage of energy and resources. That's why the poet says, I wonder by my troth what thou and I did. So they are wondered to know, they are surprised to know that after wasting a lot of time, they are now privileged, they are now proud to have the company of each other. So this is the paraphrasing or explanation of the first two lines. The lover expresses this in the first two lines. Then, were we not weaned till then? This is a very famous phrase. Were we not weaned till then? The poet says, the lover says, that were we not separated? What does the poet? This is poet is the lover. He regards their former pleasure as childish and rustic, and their former life as a long sleep in which they were as oblivious of the reality of life. This is. Then, but sucked on country pleasures childishly, or snorted we I that seven sleepers then. So the poet says, the lover says, were we not separated from each other? It was a time of despair for both of us, and they were wasting their time in rustic pleasures, in childish pleasures, in insignificant pleasures, in petty affairs. They were destroying their time, they were destroying their life in petty affairs, right? And here we come across a very famous, uh, a very famous metaphor of seven sleepers den. So the poet says the reality is that they were as oblivious of the reality of life as the seven sleepers were during their long stay of 200 years duration. This seven sleepers reference has been taken from mythology, and it is believed that there were there has been a legend of 7 young men of Ephesus who took refuge in a cave during the persecution of Diocletian and were entombed there. They were found alive over 2 centuries later. This is a very famous legend that some 7 young warriors were forced to take refuge in a cave during some persecution, and they were found alive even after over 2 centuries later. So they had to sleep for almost 2 centuries, but still they were alive. But they couldn't do anything significant in their lives because they were in a cave. They were captivated over there. So here the lover compares their previous life to the life of those 7 young sleepers who kept on sleeping in a cave. So when we sleep, we are not aware of the things happening around us, we are not aware of the things occurring around us. So sleep, here sleep refers to vestige of time. So the poet says that I wonder by my troth what thou and I did till we loaded, were we not weaned. The literal meaning of wean is separated from mother's breast. This is weaning. Just as an infant is separated from the breast of his mother, his life falls under risk and hazard. That's why, in the same way, the lover says that were we not weaned till then, were we not separated terribly to the extent of losing life. If an infant doesn't uh, keep in close contact with the mother, and if he doesn't keep on feeding himself, then his life may be at risk. So in the same way, when the lover was away from the beloved, he was like an infant who is separated from the breast of his mother. So you just pay attention on the phrases used in the poem, on the connotations used in the poem, and the metaphors for which the entire metaphysical poetry is important. So you see the way in which the poet expresses, were we not weaned till then, but sucked on country pleasures. This is, the lover confesses, the lover admits that he was as childish and rustic, that he was wasting his energy on such pleasures. And finally, he does not hesitate in comparing himself to those 7 sleepers who were forced to sleep for more than 200 years. And in that way, they lost all the possibilities of life and happening. You see, the moment we admit, the moment we confess, then we enter the domain of self realization, then we enter the domain of self revelation, and then we proceed from darkness to light, from death to life, and from ignorance to knowledge. You see, unless we admit, one has to admit himself, one has to confess himself, and when one can admit, one can only admit when he crushes all his ego, all his arrogance. So here the lover has been admitting from the first line of this poem to the last line. What does he say in the last 2 lines? If our two loves be one, you see, this is the height of the metaphysical poetry. If our two loves be one, or thou and I, love so alike that none do slacken, none can die. This is the height of love. This is platonic love. The poet says that the poet feels that whatever, if their love for each other is equally intense, what does the lover says? That if their love for each other is equally intense, if it prevails from both the sides, in the hearts both of the lover and the beloved, neither of the two can die, neither of us can die, no one will die, for it is only the mixture of unequal elements which is subject to decay. Here the poet writes as a philosopher that only unequal compounds, the things made of unequal compounds die. But when the things are made of equal compounds, when both feel the same warmth of love, both have, staunch dedication for each other, then there could be no fear of death, there could be no fear of diminishing of love. This is very important. So friends, I again read the first stanza, which is very appealing in its tone, in its paraphrases used, the devices, the metaphors, the similes, or the metaphysical conceits. I wonder by my troth what thou and I did till we lauded. Were we not weaned till then, but sucked on country pleasures childishly? We were wasting our time in deriving conjugal pleasures out of insignificant and petty things. Right? Just as Milton confesses in his famous sonnet on his blindness. What did I so far? I have reached the state of maturity, but the one talent given to me on behalf of God has not shown any positive consequence. That is the poetic composition. So, or snorted, we the then seven sleepers then. My life has been life like the life of seven sleepers, those famous seven sleepers. Even in Indian philosophy, in Indian scriptures, there comes a famous story or legend or fable of King Muchukund, who is believed to sleep in a cave for quite a long period of time. Right? The story of King Muchukund, Raja Muchukund, it comes in Mahabharata. But this all pleasures fancies be, if ever any beauty I did see, which I desired and got, it was but a dream of thee. I will come to do the paraphrasing of these three lines in the next class. Thank you, friends.